Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Nerd Nation podcast.
Howdy.
I am joined here with my co-host Brandon.
Howdy.
This first episode is going to be pretty much just us introducing ourselves and informing you of what the podcast is going to be about. We don't know how good this is going to be. We don't know how this is going to work.
Go horribly.
Leave us. We'd hope not.
Let's be optimistic.
Let's stay optimistic. So if we did do anything wrong, or you have any suggestions, please leave us some feedback because we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And so about the podcast itself, Nerd Nation, we set this up a few months ago, but we haven't actually done anything yet. So this is kind of late coming. And this podcast, I was going to title the Gaming Podcast, but hopefully we're going to be talking about other things other than just gaming, although that we're going to probably aim for that to be our primary topic of discussion. And it's just going to basically be a podcast where we talk about anything, nerdy, from films to TV to Star Wars, gaming, whatever. And we're going to be talking about a different topic each week. But since this is the first episode, we're just going to be introducing ourselves, our history with gaming, the impact it's had, our favorite games, what we're looking for in the future, and things like that. So, we haven't really planned an awful lot out. I think we prefer just openly speaking about what's on our mind, and I prefer that than writing an entire script. I don't think that's really the best way to do a podcast. But I've rambled on long enough, so I'm going to pass you over to my co-host Brandon, and he's going to introduce himself. So take it away.
Hey, I'm Brandon, also known as Wesker on all my social media, etc. So doing this podcast is really exciting because, of course, I'm a massive fucking nerd when it comes to everything. When it comes to films, games, it's just going to be really exciting to discuss this with you, especially James, and all the people that might watch. Like, whether we're, discussing reviews on games, discussing updates that might happen on things. And to me, that's really exciting because I don't like the world. And I find that being a nerd really helps me escape from reality. And I think that's what it means to a lot of us.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So I think I'll start with my history with games. So I think when I was 4 or 5, I got gifted the Wii. And that was like, that was one of the best consoles I've ever played. That was mind-blowing. You had Wii Sports, flipping Matt in tennis. Could never beat the.
Yeah, no one likes Matt.
Jump into a hole with a healthy amount of food and just sit there, Matt. Nobody likes you. But I think it was Lego Batman, the video game. That was like the first proper game I got into. And I loved that. That was the first Lego game, actually. I remember like going around as Poison Ivy and just like kissing people and just killing them. And it was the best thing. Or you'd be the Joker and just electrocute everybody. That'd be amazing.
It was a great game.
It was. And then I had a PS2. And the PS2 was left to me because my mom kind of like left the house. So I had the PS2. And honestly, to this day, I still think of it as the best console ever for me, nostalgia-wise. I had Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, Lord of the Rings, Narnia. Basically everything that was, that you'd associate with your childhood. And then, of course, after the PS2, I got an Xbox 360 because everybody was on that. And I was like, wow, I want to get this. And I got it, and I enjoyed it. I played games like Batman Arkham Asylum on it.
Yeah.
Which introduced me to the Batman series. I fell in love with that. That was fantastic. But then I wanted to play online with my friends. And because we were poor, we couldn't afford Xbox Live. So I thought it'd be better to get a PS3 because we could play online for free. And that was the main reason why I got a PS3. And the highlight of my PS3 was probably Destiny.
Yes.
Destiny, those good old days where you team up in fire teams, get kicked if you were being toxic, go into a rumble match, have some 9-year-old scream at you for killing him. Yeah, those were the times. Doing raids, having everyone flip out at you when you did something wrong. Yeah, Destiny 1 was the best, and then of course Taken King came and ruined it all. But we don't need to address that. Then I moved on to the PS4, and the PS4 for me, because I used to be terrified of horror games, especially. I used to have nightmares about them, so I always avoided horror. But then I started getting into them, and I think it was because of I used to watch Markiplier go through horror games, and then I thought, okay, these ain't too bad, so I'll try them myself. And I think the first one I properly went through was Evil Within 2, and I loved it. And that was like the first proper game that got me into horror. So then I moved on to like Resident Evil, Amnesia, Last of Us, and horror is just so good because there's so many stories in horror and how tense it makes you.
Especially if you're playing it late in the evening or late at night as well.
Yeah, with your lights off and you're just crapping yourself. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So then I became an absolute horror nerd thanks to Markiplier's horror playthroughs. And I just fell in love with horror, and that included like Resident Evil and Silent Hill and whatnot. There's not really much to say about how much I evolved, but that's how I did in gaming.
Well, I'm gonna be honest here. I think you should say something about that game that came out recently that you really loved and stop posting about.
The Last of Us 2 is a very highly controversial game. So spoilers incoming. So I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to take off just a bit. The main character, Joel, kind of gets his head smashed in by this girl called Abby. And of course, everybody was annoyed, which is understandable. We've just had, the beloved protagonist killed off in the most brutal way. A Joel in one, as we call it. But the game itself is something completely different to what I expected. Like I was playing this at 2:00 in the morning, dropped in, and I saw Joel die, and I didn't know whether to pick up the controller. I put the controller down. I didn't want to pick it up. I don't want to know where this game is going. I just gave up with it. But the only thing that kept me going was wanting to kill Abby. So I played through the game, and at first I was kind of like, this is a bit crap. I'm not into it. And then things started happening, and it started getting better and better. And you have to keep a really open mind to the game and accept that Joel isn't a hero and he's kind of a villain. It's all about perspective, and you have to address that everybody else could see him this way. So, oh my gosh, I was in tears. That game, it's destroyed me mentally. I'm never going to recover. I spent £50 on a collector's edition bracelet.
Oh yeah.
I'm just learning all the songs from it on guitar. I just love that game. I'm doing it on hardest mode now. That was fantastic for me.
Very good.
How would you like to describe your evolving from games?
Okay, well, so mine and Brandon's sort of gaming career has been very different, but
gaming career.
we did all start off in the same place because I got the Wii as well when I was like 4 years old. My grandparents, who live up in Manchester, actually had it, and they didn't want it. They got it because they wanted it for when we went to theirs and for like the Wii Fit and things like that. And well, I reset it up a few days ago, and they have progress from Wii Sports over 3,000 days ago. I'm not even kidding. back
Can't
in
believe you got a Wii
2010.
Fit. Damn,
Who didn't?
I
um,
didn't.
but yeah, I absolutely loved the Wii. I think it's always going to be one of my all-time favorite consoles, if not my all-time favorite console.
The
I really
PC
don't
one.
know, but I got it from them, and my two favorite games by far were Mario Kart, because everyone played Mario Kart, and Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And I
I've
absolutely
never
loved both
played a
of
Super
those.
Smash Bros.
Yeah, you should.
Played
They're
one.
very fun.
I should give it a go.
Yeah. So Mario Kart, obviously, I've always been into racing games. I know Brandon hasn't really, but they're not like my favorite, but I do enjoy them. And it was the first proper racing game I got to play, and I absolutely loved it. I played an absolute ton of it online, getting my VR all the way up to the max until Nintendo shut the servers down, which was very sad for me.
That's depressing. Rip.
And Smash Bros. Brawl was the first ever Super Smash Bros. Game I played, and I absolutely loved it. The amount of characters and variety there was in that game was awesome. I don't think it's the best game in the series. I think Melee and Ultimate are definitely the two best, but it was still, I didn't care at the time. I was sat there with my Wii remote and my nunchuck, and I just didn't care. I absolutely loved it. And the Wii, I played those two games primarily up until like 2014, 2015, and I got my Xbox then. Because obviously Nintendo closed the servers, I couldn't play my two favorite games online anymore. And I thought, you know what, it's time for a change. I'm gonna get an Xbox. It wasn't because it was the best. It was literally because it was the one that I knew about and I'd used
Who
before.
wasn't on
I'd never.
Xbox at that time?
Well, yeah, but I used the 360 a lot, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And I just thought, you know, I might as well carry on. I've never used a PlayStation before, so I don't know if I want to, you know, take that risk.
I like Xbox 360. I like the
Yeah, it was very
avatars
good.
especially. I love the avatars. I loved getting game score and then spending money on them.
It was very good. And also because a lot of my friends had the Xbox, and I didn't know many people at the time who had a PlayStation. I knew Brandon did, but that was about it. And that's been my primary console for the past 5 years. And I see the faults in it. It is definitely not the best, and the PS4 is way better. But you know, I never got around to getting
It takes
one.
balls to say.
It does. But you know, you've got to
I mean,
look at the facts.
I feel that when I looked at the Xbox interface, there was
It's
some
horrible.
features. No, I actually liked some of the interface features. Like I swear you can watch YouTube while you're playing a game.
Yeah, you could, but that's
Yeah,
the problem.
I would
That's
like
the problem.
that
You
PlayStation.
could, because when the Xbox One was announced, Microsoft were marketing it as a multimedia device instead of a games console. At
Okay.
the reveal, they were like, "Oh yeah, you know, you can watch YouTube and Netflix on this thing using the Kinect," and the Kinect was a failure, as we all know. And they
What happened
didn't
with the
really.
Kinect?
Well, the 360 Connect it just didn't function properly, and it was just to try and rival the Wii.
Swear there was
Um,
like Puss in Boots game
and
I found that.
well,
I had
yeah,
there was
it's
Puss in Boots and
difficult.
there was a Star Wars one.
Yeah, and
Star Wars that was great.
I think it had some great games. But the Xbox for me, in terms of like my favorite games and the fun that I had, the favorite games have always got to be Halo. I absolutely love Halo. I played Halo for the first time at my cousin's house, Halo 4, and I pretty much just absolutely loved it. Someone is at my door. I'll go and quickly
What an
see who
awkward
it is, and
time.
I'll be back. So please fill it in.
Yeah. So while he goes, I've never touched a Halo game. Well, I did once. I went round to my friend's house. We played a bit of it. I think it was multiplayer or something. I remember just like climbing up a ship or something and pushing somebody off. My friend telling me that was my teammate and me laughing my head off. I've never really interacted with a Halo game. All I know is that there's Master Chief. You have Cortana. I think that's in it. Not Cortana. That's the bloody Microsoft thing, ain't it? I can't remember her name. but I know that Master Chief is in love with like a virtual person.
Okay, I am back. Sadly,
Hello.
I can't pause anything, so thank you, Brandon.
That's all
Where
right. I
was
just
I?
told him about my first experience with Halo.
So yeah, my Halo experience started all the way back when I was like 9 years old. And my cousin had got the Xbox 360 and he got Halo 4 on launch day. And I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. I'd never been into really first-person shooters up
When
until
did the
then.
first Halo come out?
The first Halo was
Yeah.
2001, I believe.
Was that with the Xbox 360?
Yeah, no, with the original Xbox 2001.
See, I didn't even know there was an original Xbox.
It was the design of the console was forgettable, but it had great games, I'll say that. But with Halo 4, he booted it up. I was with my other cousin as well, and all three of us were there. And because Halo has always had 4-player split screen, we played through it. The first level in Halo 4, I was just completely mesmerized. You wake up
Are they all
on...
about Master Chief?
Yeah, they're all about... Well, yeah, it was... Halo 4 was a lot more focused on Master Chief's sort of emotional side, let's say.
Yeah.
You wake up on the ship after 5 years in hypersleep. I can't remember how long exactly. And the Covenant are invading the ship. And I remember halfway through the level, you go to this like big window and you look outside and there's this huge space battle. Like, I'd never seen anything like it in a video game. It was so visually like incredible. I don't know how they did that on the 360. It was absolutely insane. And I was just completely gobsmacked and I absolutely loved it. And we played through it. We didn't get to the end of the game, obviously. We weren't there all night. But it was such an amazing experience for me. And since then, I've played Halo a lot and I love Halo.
Isn't it amazing how like we look back at these graphics now and we think they're crap, but then when we were back then, it's kind of a case of wow, these are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how far things have come, really.
Yeah, especially coming up with these next gen as well.
Yeah,
how impeccable they're going to be this time.
It is exciting. But I would say, yeah, Halo is definitely one of my favorite games. But Overwatch as well, but for completely different reasons. So for me, I got Overwatch like a year after it released. I wasn't a day one player. I wasn't.
I think I did too.
Well, no, it didn't really grab me that much. I didn't see the whole big deal, and then I saw how popular it was.
I think I watched videos on it, like Mr. Fruit.
Yeah, Mr. Fruit.
I'd watch him on it.
And like Brandon, I also had a brilliant time with Destiny. I didn't play as much as I really should have done, looking back at it now. But you know, and Overwatch for me was such a new perspective. I have hundreds of hours on it, and I know there are professionals. I mained like everyone. I mained Reaper, but now I'm more.
Everybody.
I'm more of a Winston main, I'd say now.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult to really describe what my feeling was at the time, because Overwatch was so different for me. I never really because when it released, I never really understood what the big deal was, and then I got it and I loved it. Hundreds of hours on it, and I know there are like professionals out there that have thousands of hours, but you have to consider that me and Brandon are both 15-year-olds, and we don't have all the time in the world to be doing that, especially with school and things like that. And I just had so much fun playing the game. It was an amazing multiplayer experience. I wish there was more single player, but
I don't think I can last an hour Overwatch without rage quitting.
It is very annoying. I will say that. I'm not gonna say any game
it's
is
either
perfect, but
you're bad or your teammates are bad.
Pretty much. And I played it with a group of friends that I never really talked to at school, but I did play with a lot on Xbox. And I remember coming home one Tuesday evening. I didn't have any homework to do, and so I just jumped on Overwatch. And we played until at least 11 in the evening, and I went from like mid-gold to diamond that night, and it was so much fun. All of us really coordinated.
You went to gold to diamond?
Yeah, in one night, because we just played. I was not mid-gold, like higher gold, I'd say.
I think
the
highest I've ever been was platinum on that game.
Well, Oh no, was Platinum before Diamond? I can't remember.
It was.
Yeah, well, Platinum then. I don't remember. I haven't played the game since like Christmas. But I'd say maybe my all-time favorite game is Star Wars Battlefront 2015. But it was mostly, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and so when the game released, I didn't really care much about the big problems with the game, like, oh, there were only 4 Walker Assault maps. You know, there was a big lack of content, but I wasn't bothered because I love Star Wars. I just wanted to play it. I just wanted to blast people, you know. And I got it a few months after it released, and it was mostly a solo experience. I never really played it with any of my friends, but it didn't bother me because I made so many great friends playing that game online that I still play on Battlefront 2 with to this day. And the gameplay was just so satisfying and so addictive that I just played tons of it. I got the season pass for Christmas, which added like 10 new blasters, 8 new heroes, 4 new game modes. It was just amazing.
I loved Heroes versus Villains.
Yeah, that was good. And then 2017 came along. Battlefront 2 was announced. The internet went mad. Me and Brandon spoke to it to our maths teacher at the time.
Yeah.
He was just as excited. And I was considering pre-ordering it because at that point I'd never pre-ordered a game before. I don't even do it now. I've only pre-ordered like 2 games in my lifetime because I want to wait and see. I don't want to waste money. Pretty much, I want to see what the reception is like.
And the reception was crap.
Well, yeah, but it's the same thing with Battlefront 2015. I knew the loot boxes were terrible, but it didn't bother me because I was like, I get to play as Darth Maul. You know, who the hell cares?
I mean, when I got it, I had because I had the pre-order bonuses, I got the deluxe edition. I wasn't really bothered about, you know, buying crates and whatnot and how you had to spend money on it. But like loads of people were pressed at EA for it. And I totally get that because, you know, they're advertising a game and then they've done what they do with every other game that they sell off.
I don't think I can still really ever forgive EA for what they did with Battlefront 2. But like
they kind of rushed it.
It didn't bother. The gameplay was, they put a lot of effort into the game. The bit that I didn't like was the loot boxes. Everything else I thought was just perfect. And
I thought the lack of heroes was a bit.
Well, no, because you got a lot more than the last game from all eras. That was good. We finally got clones.
We didn't have the heroes that we had in the first game. Like,
yeah, it was a bit of a shame, but Jinna, and people like that. But I played. The trailer was revealed. I was super hyped. I played a ton of the beta, and I was considering pre-ordering it, but I decided not to. And for Christmas that year, I was asking my parents for Battlefront 2, F1, and Destiny 2, because I love Destiny as well. And
how disappointing!
I said, you know, what if I buy myself Battlefront 2 when it releases in November? That wouldn't be as big of a problem. They were like kind of skeptical and said no. My parents aren't the most lenient in the world. And so I came home from school on a Friday. I had an absolute ton of homework to get through. And I worked until about 5 o'clock. And then my dad came in the room and he was holding something behind his back. And I had no clue what it was or what he was on about.
It's a gun.
And he pulled out Battlefront 2 from behind his back, the deluxe edition, and said, if you get through your homework, you can have this. And I'd never, ever, ever done my homework so quick in my life.
Well, bribe, jeez.
And as it turned out, he went out at like 10 o'clock the previous evening to get me Battlefront 2. And I raced through it. I left it installing overnight, and then that whole weekend I was just non-stop playing it. And I love Battlefront 2 now. When you see how far the game has come, how much EA has done to it, and how much they've added Anakin, Count Dooku, Obi-Wan, Grievous, all the new clones, and the Scarif update and everything, it's now what I would say a complete game, and I absolutely love it. And we get to 2020, where things get a bit weird. So in 2019, in October, I was really getting into VR, because this place in the city centre opened called Zero Latency, where you could do like a virtual reality thing, and there was loads of things you could do there.
Oh,
and I went, and it was what?
Don't they do the Darth Vader one?
Yeah, but that was a game for another headset. I did, but the one at Zero Latency was so immersive. I absolutely loved it.
Okay.
It was like one of the coolest experiences I've ever done, and still is to this day. I went with my uncle and my cousin, just the three of us, and it was awesome. I was like, oh my god, I love virtual reality, because I didn't know how big of a thing it was at the time. And so
Yeah.
I looked up online, virtual reality headsets that are cheap. And the ones that came up was like the HTC Vive, £500, but you need a
500.
godly gaming PC for that to run.
Jeez.
I was like, PSVR, okay, but it turns out you need a PS4 for that, and I didn't have one, and I wasn't willing to spend, another £300 just to get that. And then I saw the Oculus Quest VR headset that released in May of that year, and it's completely wireless. You don't need a computer or anything. All you need is a smartphone to set it up. And I was like, oh my god, wow, that's
That's pretty
incredible.
good.
And I told my parents, like, I'd quite like this for Christmas, but it was like mid-November at the time, and it was a bit late. And they said no. So I asked for money to put towards it, and it was then my birthday in January, and I asked for more money, and I finally got enough money for it. A few days later, I asked my parents, can I order it from the website? And they said, sure. And so I ordered it, but it said it would be dispatched in February. So they were obviously, it was sold out everywhere. You could not get it from anywhere at all. It was, and if you wanted to get it from somewhere, it would be a third-party company on Amazon selling it you for £700. So I had to wait 3 weeks after I ordered it, and I got the Vader Immortal bundle with it, and I got it on that Tuesday night. I raced to the door when the delivery man came. I took it to the kitchen table, I unboxed it, I set it up, I put on the headset for the first time, ignited my lightsaber against Darth Vader, and it was the coolest shit ever. I'm not even kidding. I absolutely loved it.
That must have been cool.
But then 2 weeks later, I got rid of it. And I'll explain. Because I was so into it at the time, I thought, great, what other free games are there available? And I saw there's one called Pavlov VR, which, if you don't know, is pretty much Call of Duty / CSGO in VR. I've seen PewDiePie play it and a load of other people. And it was a really immersive first-person military shooter. I was like, wow, that's cool. And there was a way you could get it on the Oculus Quest. All you needed to do was plug a USB cable into your computer, and it would install on there through an app. So I loaded up my laptop and used the charging cable that came with it, which was usable. I looked it up, it was fine. And I got that. I installed SideQuest, which is the app I got it from, and I started the installation progress, and then my headset went black pretty much, and I turned it back on, and I could already tell something wasn't right. It couldn't connect to the internet, and it couldn't connect to the internet. It was, the time was wrong. The date was 1970, and I thought, oh my god, what the hell happened? And so I told my dad, I'm like, I don't know what happened. What have I done wrong? And he said, try factory resetting it. That might be your only option. And so I did. And then I came to the thought, that's absolutely ridiculous. I've spent £400 on this thing, and it's broken within the next 2 weeks of me having it. And so I told them, this has been great, but I've spent a lot of money on this thing, and I'm not accepting a broken product. And so we sent it back. And then a few weeks later, I smacked myself in the face and realized that I didn't enable the sideloading update. Pretty much, I didn't update the Oculus software to allow it to be to allow files to be imported from a computer. And so when it broke, we jumped to the conclusion that, oh no, it's a faulty product. There was nothing wrong. It was all my fault. And I didn't, it was all my fault. I didn't enable the update. And because it went wrong, they assumed, great, worst has come to worst. And months have passed, and I still regret sending it back. And especially in lockdown, I wish I still had it.
Did you not get it back?
No, I didn't. Because by that time I was like, you know what? I did have problems with it. Other than that, the strap was uncomfortable because it's wireless. There's nothing pulling it back to make it. It was really front heavy, your head was like tilted forwards, because with like the PSVR and the HTC Vive, you've got a wire connected to your PlayStation or your PC, making the weight distribution better. I would always get really sweaty in it.
Who doesn't get sweaty in
Still
VR?
had to pay full price, and it was so much fun. I loved playing Rec Room, meeting new people in VR chat, going through the quest for the golden trophy, which was this medieval RPG dungeon thing where you can like draw back a bow and arrow with your hands and everything and unlock this armor. It was awesome. But in the end, I was like, and I told my dad a few weeks ago, I regret that. And he said, nope, you're not getting it back. So in the future, if you lower the price, I might get it back, but who knows?
Did you get your money back for it then?
I did. Yeah, I did get my money back. So that's good. And then in like May of this year, my Xbox, which I've had for nearly 6 years now, started getting faulty. The online wouldn't work. It was insanely loud, louder than a PS4.
That's surprising.
Sorry. Which is a surprise, because though Xbox isn't the best, one thing they've always been good at doing is keeping ventilation to a minimum. They've always been very quiet, smooth consoles.
To be fair, I have had it since 2013-14.
Yeah. But it sounded like a jet engine. I put my hand on it and it was boiling hot. And the online didn't work, even though my internet was perfect.
Ain't there like a red circle or something?
No, that was on the 360. That was sadly the victim of my cousin's Xbox 360.
Didn't that mean that it just is dead?
Yeah, we were in the middle of a Halo match and the red ring of death came up. But
no.
But I couldn't play online. It was so laggy. My ping was like below 30 and it was unbearable. And so I thought, you know what? I've had this for a very long time. It's time for a change. I didn't want to get a PlayStation because the PS5 is coming out. So, if I were to get one, I might as well wait till then, right? But I thought I want to return to my Nintendo roots. I want to relive the Nintendo memories of my childhood. And that's what I went with. I've had a Switch now for like 2 weeks and I absolutely love it. I can take it wherever I want. It's like the perfect console and the online actually works. We all know Nintendo Switch Online isn't the best. Smash Bros. Ultimate.
How much is it per month?
No, well, it's £20 for the year, so I got that.
Okay, that's actually right.
I got it in a bundle, so you pay like £350 and you get a Switch, a year of online. Choose a game of your choice, and you get an accessory. And Mario Kart runs perfectly fine, but if you even search on the internet, the first result you will find of Super Smash Bros. Online is that it's unplayable. For some reason, Super Smash Bros. Is just the laggiest mess ever online. I don't know, but either way, I absolutely love the Switch. My cousin is hopefully getting one. We love playing Smash Bros. Together. It's awesome. And that brings us here to now, where we're recording a podcast, and that was our gaming journey.
I've played a Switch, and I thought it was actually okay.
Yeah.
My sister has one, and we're at the hospital.
Yeah.
Because she just had this.
I just love how you can take it anywhere. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We went to my grandma's yesterday, who lives up in Manchester, and I had it with me in the car playing Super Smash Bros.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to get The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a game that won Game of the Year, and a lot of people say is the best game of all time, but I don't know. I'll have to judge that for myself. And I want to get things like Splatoon and other things like that, but so far my experience with it is just amazing. I love the portability and things like that.
Nintendo games for me, I've never been into Nintendo games on their own.
That's fair enough.
So it came to me as a surprise when Alien Isolation was coming onto Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. They don't tend to publish a lot of graphic games, but I was never a huge like graphical game fan anyway.
I mean, I'm a huge what's the word? It's kind of like I prefer more PlayStation-y, Xbox-y games than playing on a Nintendo, if that makes sense.
I can get that, and I still have my Xbox, but it's just I've never been like I've enjoyed COD. All right, I loved Black Ops 3. I really enjoyed that game.
Black Ops 2 of the days. Yeah.
I didn't even mind Infinite Warfare. I hate to say it, but the campaign was decent. Okay, but
I
I'm
actually
not
liked the multiplayer for a bit.
I'm not like a Call of Duty super fan, and I haven't
Yeah.
bought any of the recent games apart from Modern Warfare Warzone, which is really fun. And I wasn't too bothered because they have the only sort of they have all the games that I like on there. They have Overwatch on there. They have Warframe, another game I forgot to mention that I absolutely
What, on
love.
Nintendo Switch?
Yes, they do. They have
Oh.
Overwatch. They have Doom on there. They have Crysis remastered. I'm surprised they have Doom because that game is gory beyond hell.
Yeah.
But I wasn't too bothered because I was always into sort of different, very different type of games.
Yeah.
Smash Bros. I just love. I'm not even into fighting games. It's the only fighting game I like. I don't like Mortal Kombat.
I play it when I can play against my friend or my family.
Yeah. It's
but
fun
I
when
would
you're
never
with
do
other
on.
people. It's very
Yeah.
dull alone, in my opinion. But I just all the games that I did play on my Xbox are all available on Switch. But the difference is I can play it wherever I want, and so that's good
Yeah.
for me. So yeah, that's kind of where we're up to now.
You see,
Two sad, lonely people in quarantine.
but back to the VR. We recently got the PlayStation VR,
Oh yeah, you did.
and playing it is flipping wonderful. I love VR so much. First game we went on, it was the PAX VR Worlds kind of thing. You go down in the sea and there'd be a shark encounter and whatnot. It'd be like,
Oh, I
I'd be
remember that.
terrified with that VR headset on.
I played that at a convention once. It's terrifying.
It is. Thing is, I thought it was like, I don't know if the Oculus does. Thing is, we didn't have Move controllers. It didn't come with Move controllers. We have to use that.
Yeah.
We're getting Move controllers soon, which is good. But I don't know why, but I expected it to be like actually moving, if it makes sense. Like I'd move that, the screen would move.
But you can't you? In
Yeah,
a lot of games, you do move freely. But yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah. But I think I got No Man's Sky. I was like, I have to try this in VR. And I remember getting into the shuttle, you know, I was at the pilot seat, I was looking around, I had all these buttons and controls. I said, like, okay, frick yeah, we're going into space. And I remember looking off, and I was stood up at the time.
Yeah.
And of course, you're looking into space around you in VR, and it's fantastic.
It is mesmerizing.
No Man's Sky is one of the best games I've ever played in VR.
Yeah, I play No Man's Sky not in VR, and I forgot to mention that too. It's one of my all-time favorite games. Because when you think of the concepts of it, it is literally like my dream game. It's a childhood dream, you know, a game where you can. Yeah, it had the most terrible.
Had a very
launch,
dodgy start.
But
yeah.
the fact that Hello Games, after the terrible launch it had, stuck with it, and it's now like one of the best games you can buy for the price, I think. You're on a planet, you fly up into space, no loading screen, you can literally just go on and fly into space, go onto a space station, earn billions of units. I've got a mining center that earns me billions every day, and it's just the most amazing space sandbox that you could. There's so much to do.
We still need to play crossplay one time.
Yeah, we still need to do that. But it's such an amazing experience, and I absolutely love No Man's Sky. But returning to the PlayStation VR, I didn't have an awful lot of experience with it. I've only used it twice, and having played it at conventions and at zero latency, I will say I'm not the biggest fan. I don't think the tracking is amazing because you're using the PlayStation Move controllers that are nearly 10 years old.
Oh no, you're using
the PS3.
PlayStation camera.
No, but like the controllers themselves, the PlayStation Move controllers are
I
relatively
haven't used the
old,
Move controllers.
They work fine, I think. I think they get the job done. But I will say that the PlayStation VR is by far the most comfortable headset ever. Like,
it is pretty comfortable.
You could sit there with it for hours.
Thing is, I had to go through RE7 in VR, which was terrifying. I hate Resident Evil 7, especially the first bit. because I was doing it in Madhouse because I was about to platinum the game. I was like, okay, I got to platinum this, and I want to do it in the most special way ever. So that means Madhouse VR. And in Madhouse, everybody's faster. You get basically one hit by everything, and I got to do it in VR. And I remember my family was around me doing whatever they were doing. I was sitting there and I was sweating like crazy. I had Mia with her chainsaw chasing me around, and I had to loop around. I died the first time, but then on my second go, I managed to hit all my shots on her. Then I had to whack her with my axe and kill her. And it was a terrifying experience of my life. RE7 VR had me in so many times. Like, it's just up in your face when you have one of the molded, or you have Jack grabbing you, or there's Evelyn.
It does sound pretty terrifying.
It is. But I loved it. It was
Yeah.
fantastic. And I've tried that FNAF VR recently, which is also scary, especially when you don't close the door and forget that Foxy's running down the hallway and out
Oh
on
yeah.
bam.
But I also think the PlayStation VR is by far the best looking headset as well. It looks so futuristic, those awesome blue lights on the front of it. They're the
And
tracking lights, but it looks awesome. Who cares?
I'd say that the VR games that come with it,
Yeah, it does have a
this
great
is
library of games.
this is something that I'm looking forward to with the next gen consoles, is the updated graphics, and I want to see what they do with VR,
Yeah.
because I hope like VR maybe like gets an enhancement, maybe multiplayer, because I
I
don't think
want
there's any
VR to become the
multiplayer.
mainstream of gaming. I think that's the
Yeah,
future. I think in the decades to come, people aren't going to be using consoles anymore. It's going to be all Ready Player One style.
yeah,
VR is going to be the thing. But
yeah,
when I had the Oculus, I I had so many diverse experiences because it came with a load of free demos. Super
yeah.
Hot VR was one, and that is one of the coolest things I've ever done. It
Oh,
felt like I was in the Matrix.
it's super one with the red figures, and you like
Yes, and the
shoot them and
time
what?
time
Yeah,
only moves when you move, and it was so cool. I was stood up like Neo from the Matrix, and I had to like dodge bullets and everything. It was so awesome with that, and also Beat Saber is
oh,
just
Beat
so
Saber, yeah.
satisfying. But Vader Immortal was something else. You you were in this ship. You had this droid next to you, and I feel really bad for not remembering the name because they're with you throughout the whole game. And it's like the start of A New Hope. You get put into the Star Destroyer hangar bay, and you're climbing up this thing, and you walk into this big round room, and Vader is there with his red lightsaber, and it's completely pitch black. I was terrified. And then he ignites his lightsaber, and then you reach down, physically reach down to pick up your lightsaber. You hold it in front of you, you ignite it, and I was on the verge of crying because it was just so
That must have been so
it was
cool.
so incredible. Like, and since it was an Oculus exclusive, I felt very very privileged.
I
And
think
I
what's
was
cool is
fighting.
Darth Vader
Yeah, but
choking
I was
people. Like,
fighting Darth Vader in virtual
oh,
reality with a lightsaber. It was
that is
so
cool.
cool. Um,
I would love to do like the Rogue One scene at the end
yeah,
with Darth Vader.
that would. Oh my god, yes.
That'd be fantastic.
But there were a lot of horror games as well. Like Rec Room, the game I played the most was Paintball because it was pretty much the closest you could get to a proper first-person shooter in VR. I was like dual wielding shotguns in each
Cool
hand, and
town.
it was awesome. And there was this one called like Locate the Stalker or something, and you went through this really dark tunnel with 3 other random people, and we were all huddled together because we were like so scared. We turned behind us, and this big like I don't know, goop monster or whatever was chasing us down this very thin corridor that progressively got thinner as you went through, and then none of us could fit through. We had to go one at a time by the end, and it was terrifying. And it's experiences like that I really, really hit myself in the head for. Why did I get rid of the Oculus?
Yeah.
It was uncomfortable. It was just these Velcro straps holding it in place. I should have got a headband for it, but and I hope VR is the future of gaming. That's what I hope for.
The thing is, I
But
was kind of hoping for like VR chat on PlayStation. That'd be cool.
yeah, VR chat was a very weird experience.
Yeah, it
I
is,
was
ain't
put into
it?
this house. I don't remember. I think my character was just this metal man person. Came into this house. There was a lot of people in the house. There were a lot of people sat down watching TV, which was relatively normal. I went to look around. There were people sat in this hot tub and in this pool. Opened the door to a bedroom, and there were two people in there doing something I don't really want to mention.
Oh no.
Not literally, but they were flirting to the point where it was like, oh my god.
It's awkward.
It got a bit awkward. I closed the door and ran away. But I also downloaded. There was a lot of other games as well. I had two that I really liked. There was Big Screen Cinema, where pretty much you could pay like £1, and every Friday or something they would put on a new film, and you sit in this virtual reality cinema. You had like virtual popcorn and everything. There were other people sat in there. It was really cool. You got your first free film. It was like Transformers: Age of Extinction, so pretty cool. I was sat next to these people, drinking like Coca-Cola and chucking popcorn everywhere. It was hilarious. And then another one I downloaded was Poker Stars VR, and I had no clue how to play poker. I didn't download it for that. You basically have this like watch on your arm, and if you like move your arm in and you tap your watch, it comes up with this like holographic display. It's really cool. And you've got all the money you've got, and you have a daily spin where you can see how many chips you get, and you can go sit in so many different environments, like a city, this big like spaceship thing. It was just, I love the immersion of VR. There was also
It is beautiful.
There was also Orbis VR, which I only got the demo for, but it's like I'm sure everyone knows what World of Warcraft is, or Elder Scrolls. It was basically that, but in VR. It was like a proper MMORPG in VR. You chose a class. I picked a mage because I'm always a mage / support in those types of games, and you like open this spell book. That you have to turn the pages, and there are these like words in there that you have to read to cast a spell, and you like do this weird movement thing with your hands to like forge up a fireball, and I launched it at this dragon thing. It was really cool.
I like that Gladiator Arena game where you go in and you get a weapon.
Oh, I can't remember what the name of that is. It's like Gore. It begins with a G or something, and it's on the Valve Index. It looks so cool.
Yeah, I just saw him like choke out Yoda, and then it was like, it's brutal.
Yeah, I do hope more PC VR games come to the solo VR ones, but I would say we have covered a lot in the first episode. We kind of went a bit off topic. We were only meant to introduce ourselves, but we've been rambling on about VR. But hopefully that's
it's been good.
That was very cool. So to all our listeners, we really do hope you enjoyed this first episode. If there is anyone listening, let's hope so. And if you did, please leave us some feedback. We would really like to hear it. What can we improve on? Any suggestions? Any topics of discussion, suggestions, and things like that? Because we would really like to know your thoughts and opinions on it.
So I think we should be doing it weekly.
Yeah, maybe probably weekly. We were thinking of doing a news sort of one, but I think we should leave that for a bit because we really need to get a grip
should we do that for the podcast? Maybe say, so if there's any big topics that anything in the news.
Oh yeah, we can mention that in it, can't we? I feel like for our weekly podcast, we should sort of do a bit of what we did today, talking about our favorite games and the topics and things, and films and TV shows. Don't forget. But then we can also have a segment for like,
don't know about yet because lockdown.
And then I think in the podcast we can have a segment where we talk about the news, and then maybe we could have something like a question of the day or something like that. If you have any questions, please leave it to us on the review section.
That'd be good.
And I would say that's about it. So thank you very much for listening. Please
Yeah,
stay
thank you.
tuned. I've been James. Brandon has been Brandon.
I hope.
We do hope, and we hope that you really enjoyed listening. So thank
Yeah.
you very much, and we will see you in the next episode.